the Golden Knights as a recent example. In the NBA, it just doesn't work that way. When teams get much better from one year to the next, when they get to the postseason, there's still a learning curve, and it usually goes, all right, a team will win a series, maybe they'll win two, and then there'll be a step back, and then it takes 3 or 4 years in the playoffs to be legitimately considered finals contenders. Even a team like the Warriors that went from pretty good to championship level as fast as any team has done in recent NBA history. Even a team like Golden State had that postseason experience. The Nets have none. I don't know. The Nets weren't an overachieving team in the regular season. The Nets were a good team. They were.
In terms of the preseason projections, which I think were mostly not good.
Yeah, I mean, the preseason projections are what they are.
Well, yeah.
in every sport. But it was pretty clear early. I mean, the Nets were good enough to make the playoffs, despite the fact that the two of their best players, in Dinwiddie and LeVert, spent ample time on the injured list. They're a very deep squad. They are not a squad that's laden with the superstar talent, which is the opposite of the 76ers, who aren't deep, but have a ton of superstar talent. Embiid is still very questionable. They're going to say we're going to see what he looks like in warm-ups and make the decision there. So from a betting standpoint, I'm not excited about laying a price with Philly in Game 1 or in the series without a healthy Embiid. But at the same time, I don't look at the Nets as being a team that's, they might test the 76ers. They could win a game or two in this series. They could even, in theory, win 3 and take it to 7, but I don't think they have enough to win.
7 versus 2 is Orlando-Toronto. Well, if you like that experience factor, you got plenty of it on the Raptors side. Plus, you would expect Kawhi Leonard to be not taking any games off now that the playoffs have begun. And again, my limited opinion, this looks like it's a blowout series. And I think the games themselves might be blowouts as well.
They might be. On the other hand, if you just look at the back half of the season, I know Toronto's got all the experience, and Orlando, literally, you go down their roster. I mean, it's like Terrence Ross and DJ Augustine, who I believe have a combined 1 playoff start between them.
Wow.
I mean, there really isn't much. Steve Clifford had a little bit of playoff experience as a head coach, but it's a team that's essentially playoff version. It's been 6 years since the Magic were in the postseason. But down the stretch, over the last 30 games of the year, Orlando, top 2 in the NBA in defensive efficiency.
Wow.
And that tends to translate well from the regular season to the postseason. And the one thing the Magic have that works against Toronto, Orlando's fairly deep. Their bench, and the Raptors' strength is that bench. I mean, when you talk about a squad that goes 10, 11, 12 deep, that's Toronto. That's great in the regular season. Doesn't always pay dividends in the postseason. Just ask anyone who's been betting on the Raptors in recent postseasons. They have not been a good home favorite. All that being said, if Toronto sweeps them, I wouldn't be shocked. If they win tomorrow by 20, I wouldn't be shocked.
Those are the 2 Thursday starters in the Eastern Conference. On Friday, this is
Saturday, Sunday.
Sunday, not Saturday.
We're going to the weekend,
no,
buddy.
Friday, Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. There's no games tonight. It's Saturday, Sunday.
That's what I meant, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, the weekend.
Yeah.
We're working towards the weekend. We're almost there.
Sunday, starters, Detroit, Milwaukee. That's an 8 versus 1, and if that would be it's UMBC versus Virginia, which means anything can happen, but it probably won't.
Yeah, but Blake Griffin's not healthy.
No,
so it's an 8 seed that wasn't very good to begin with. That has their best player, and to say he's not healthy, I mean he was severely limited in his limited playing time last week. I know they're going to put him out there, but it's not like the Bucks don't have injury problems, but they're so deep.
Yeah,
might help them as opposed to hurt them because
they get some guys some rest.
Yeah.
Indiana and the Celtics should be fun. Now, the Pacers have actually, you got to give them credit for hanging tough after losing their best player, but when you break down, I did notice this, courtesy of Ralph Michaels, actually, their breakdown after Oladipo got hurt, they've continued to do very well against losing teams. Mm-hmm. They have not done well at all against winning teams. They're obviously facing a winning team here, so this, I would think, would be a very difficult hurdle, despite the fact that it's a 5-4 series. Boston's a pretty heavy favorite here.
Well, yeah, look at the money line on this series was as high as minus 700 at the open. And there's been some Pacers money, and I can understand it. But this is one of those series that you cannot be shocked whatever happens. There's 2 of those series like that. I wouldn't be shocked if the Celtics flip the switch and turn their A game on and just sweep Indiana out of the playoffs. At the same time, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if that switch isn't getting flipped on for the Celtics. And Kyrie Irving's already got one foot out the door, and Indiana plays defense, and Indiana plays hard, and Indiana gives them a battle, and maybe ups. I mean, I would not be shocked if the Pacers won this series. This is a game one. I'm really interested in watching game one on Sunday.
In the Western Conference, the 8 versus 1 is just a question of how many games it takes for the Warriors to dispatch the Clippers. I give the Clippers credit. I think they had a pretty good season, but they're overmatched here, and the Warriors will do whatever they want in this series. Is whatever they want 4 games, or do the Clippers have a chance to maybe steal one?
Well, the Warriors last year went up 3-0 and then kind of fell asleep game 4 and came back and won it in game 5 against San Antonio. So there's that hope for the Clips. And you talk about an overachieving team. The Clips are the overachieving team out of this mix. You know,
they were. In looking back at the preseason stuff, I don't see anywhere where they were projected to make the playoffs.
They went into tank mode at the deadline and traded their best players and still made the postseason, which let's give Doc Rivers some credit, and maybe the Western Conference, depth-wise, wasn't quite as good as it has been in years past.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Now, the next series is fascinating to me. This is the 7 versus 2. The Spurs are the 7, the Nuggets are the 2, and it looks like, based on the early returns, that we've got a pros versus Joes unfolding here, because the sharper money is showing on the Denver Nuggets. Public is going to like Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs.
Well, I mean, when you look at the series price for a 7-2 matchup, San Antonio is being priced very competitively.
Yes. They have to, because the public, the marketplace loves Popovich, and who am I to argue with that? I mean, he's a great coach. I mean, neither do I.
We talked about the Pantheon and what you have to do to move up, and there's lots of teams that have, or there's a team or two every year that have overachieving regular seasons, and then the playoffs come around, and now you're up against Aldridge and DeRozan and Pop and Rudy Gay, and it gets a little bit tougher.
Oh yeah.
And Denver has the defense. They have the statistical profile the wise guys are going to love. Compared to San Antonio's statistical profile, it's not even close. The Nuggets, top 5 team on defensive efficiency. The San Antonio bottom 10. And you know which way the markets react to that in this point spread range. And I'm not surprised at all that we've seen the sharp money come on Denver, although it's not my money.
Interesting stuff. So are the other 2 series in the West, because Oklahoma City's taking on Portland. And you have to, this is my old theory. And it's not very scientific, but it worked for a long time when I was more into the NBA than I am now. If I found the 2 best players of the same team, I'm taking that side in the series, if the price was reasonable. It kind of is here with Oklahoma City and Portland, and the 2 best players, and no disrespect to any of the Blazers, especially Lillard's a great player.
I don't know. I mean, if I've got one game to win, I'm probably taking Lillard over Westbrook.
Okay, well, but to me, Westbrook and George together, I think it's a dynamite combination. But that said, Oklahoma City was not good down the stretch, and Portland is a very tough place to play. This looks like a really exciting series.
It's a fascinating series, and I was trying to think of other recent examples. Maybe we think of one from the NHL. The home team is favored in game 1, but a dog for the series. Yep. And that's a rare instance. And
we actually, I believe, yes, we do have one in the NHL, the St. Louis Winnipeg series, where the Blues actually went up as a series favorite, but were dogs in game 1.
And
won.
And didn't deserve to be dogs in game 1. Unfortunately, I know for your results. But Portland has a myriad of issues, okay? Let's start with the fact they got swept out of the first round last year. 2 home games against New Orleans, lost them both to open the series, and then went to New Orleans, lost the next 2. Swept out of the first round the year before, dismal exit the year before that. They have been a nightmare in terms of ATS at home in the postseason in recent years. Okay, Portland had a big 3, and now they only have a big 2, and the third guy is Enes Kanter. Okay, Enes Kanter, to say he's a defensive sieve is something of an understatement.
It's complimentary to him.
And there's this great clip that I saw of Billy Donovan when Kanter was on the OKC saying, "We can't play him, he can't D up," from like 3 or 4, however many years ago it was. Yeah, it's going to be a problem against a team that drives to the hole with having Enos Kanter at center. We'll see what John Collins is capable of do for Portland off the bench. But they're for as bad as OKC played down the stretch, and they played bad basketball for not just a week or a couple of weeks or a month or post All-Star break. That team did not look like a team capable of winning a playoff series. Blazers are hungry, but the Blazers, boy, they sure don't have that resume.
And that leaves us the Jazz and Rockets, and this will be a fun series because the Rockets have maybe the MVP in James Harden and a lot of playoff experience, and they made quite a run at the Warriors last year, so you know that they're coming in motivated and ready to go. The Jazz, pesky basketball team, and if the Rockets overlook them at all, they could get upset.
No, Houston's not getting upset.
Well, but Utah's pretty good.
So this is another sharp square.
I'm trying to build this into something exciting here, man. Come on.
It's a sharp square divide series, and the wise guys like Utah. I'll tell you flat out, and again.
Why do they like Utah, and is that wise on their part?
It is a all of this stuff is statistical profiles, and the Jazz are the type of team that, they've been in the playoffs for, the last couple of years. They ready to start winning series? Maybe. Defensively, their numbers are off the charts. Although last 15, I don't know if this matters at all, but last 15 games of the NBA regular season only, number 2 defense efficiency in the NBA, that team would be the Houston Rockets. And I watched these teams play a couple times this year. Utah's defensive strength is their ability to keep everything out of the paint. Houston's not a paint team. They're a perimeter team. They jack up, they get the one guy in the middle and 4 guys on the outside. I don't know that the Jazz defensive efficiency matches up that well against Houston. So wise guys going to love that statistical profile. There's been a lot of Rockets money for the series. Plus 300, higher than plus 300 in some places at the Open. Now I'm seeing plus 250s and shorter. But again, that's not my money. I think the Rockets are significantly better than Utah. And I worry about the Jazz ability to score against that underrated Houston defense.
Good stuff on the NBA playoffs from Ted Savransky. Teddy covers. We'll come back. Kelly Stewart will be joining us around the bend when we return.
The Las Vegas Sports Line.
Dave Cokin with John Lyons from Lyons Physical Therapy. So give me a rundown on maybe a typical treatment at LPT.
Sure, Dave. On an initial consult, we'll sit down with the patient for at least 10 or 15 minutes, get a history of their injury or their condition. Then we'll move into an assessment where we put our hands on the patient, take them through a few special tests to identify what the pain source is and what the actual injury is. Then we'll use some modalities like heat and electric stimulation to reduce their pain and muscle spasms. And typically our physical therapist or assistant will do some type of manual stretching, massage therapy, or range of motion on that patient. And after the initial visit, we typically see patients 2 to 3 times a week for 4 to 6 weeks.
LionsPTLV.com, 702-476-0222.
Hello, friends. This is Thomas Johnson from Joe's Seafood Prime Steak and Stone Crab. Need a great idea for lunch or dinner? Your best bet is Joe's, one of the most popular dining destinations on the Strip. Joe's provides the ideal setting for private parties with accommodations for up to 150 guests. Stop by to see us at the Forum Shops at Caesars and ask for Thomas Johnson, your maitre d'.
Make sure to make a reservation if you want to go down this weekend. It's busy at night at Joe's. Every night it's packed because it's one of the best restaurants you're going to find in town. 702-792-9222. Don't forget Joe's open for lunch at 11:30 as well. And a great lunch menu that offers lots of specials that you can't find on the dinner menu. Teddy, what do we have for our angle of the day?
Well, you should like this one, Dave. It's about Eduardo Rodriguez.
Boston Red Sox, who are on a one-game winning streak.
Yes. And an impressive one-game winning streak, considering how bad that game looked early on for them yesterday. It felt like their season was slipping away when they were down 5-0, and they came back and won it. But Eduardo Rodriguez, in his last 21 starts as a favorite or as a dog up to 130. So when he's favored or a short dog, the Red Sox 20-1 to the under the last 21
That's
drives.
Pretty significant.
So Rodriguez as a favorite or a short dog, which he is tonight, as Boston takes on Baltimore. The under 10.5 would be the play. You can still find 10s out there if you want it with some juice, or 10.5, which is where the market is going. There's been a lot of over money on the Orioles and the Red Sox.
All right. I just accidentally, I think I might have deleted the, yeah, I did.